when you are collaborating with other people, do you find that you change as a player? I mean, what you give, the sound colours, the exploration, the discoveries.
Well, you have to, and if you don't, you're doing something wrong. I always think of it in terms of with my students as a teacher, because I teach in Germany, and I have been doing some teaching in London as well, but it's a bit difficult to find a regular time for it. But in a way, each student that comes through the door when you're teaching one-to-one needs a slightly different teacher, sometimes a radically different teacher. Sometimes they need somebody who'll be a kind of mirror. Well, they always need that, but sometimes they need to play through without too much intense scrutiny, just to kind of feel a flow. Sometimes they need therapy.
Yes.
Sometimes, I mean, it's amazing how you do have to be, and sometimes you have to switch from being listening feminine to being listening male, and I think there are big differences in those things. I think the words don't mean as much as.
Oh, we have a food van. So we've got plenty of cake on the table.
But you didn't. All right, we've
got an orchestra of food vans that come
really,
here.
That's
yeah.
amazing. An orchestra of them.
Is that an oboe sound? Does it?
Not quite.
Come on, you did it. You did it really.
I didn't do the jingle. Honestly, it wasn't me. So yes, but absolutely, when you perform with different people, and also in different settings, you have to make different quantities of sound, different, sometimes you have to use your body in a very different way. And as soon as you start to change sound, you start to use your body in a different way. And that means that things in your mind change, because with the oboe, with the resonance of the oboe, it's all inside the head. I don't know how much people know about my instrument. It's kind of a crazy thing. I call it puffing down a twig. Because the reed is so tiny and so resistant. When you're a big boy like me, you've got a lot of air, a lot of pressure, but we use hardly any of the air, but under quite high pressure. So it's a question of, first of all, having a high pain threshold. Secondly, of being able to mentally relax enough to be able to deal with any physical pressures. And as much as anything else, it's kind of like it's all about vibration. Because the reed, so you put the reed in the top of the instrument that's made of an African blackwood called mpingo, and the reed is made from a kind of sort of like a bamboo that grows mostly in hot, wet countries like the south of France, the Camargue. And we make the reeds. I'm not going into that, that's too boring, but we do make the reeds. I do make the reeds. But the reed vibrates very much like vocal cords vibrate. So the air is passed through the reed with the lips and the cushioning the teeth. And then it's vibrating. So the vibrating air is going down the oboe and then to the audience. But in addition, the vibrating air is going backwards to inside the body because it's still vibrating. So your whole sinus cavity space, the way you use it, the way you use your throat, and your actual body, if your body posture is good, affects the sound and also the projection of the sound. And obviously with an instrument like the oboe, it's not a sort of loud thing like a soprano voice exactly, or like a Wagnerian soprano, but it is very focused. And if you use the resonance like I do, it's possible to write a really big orchestra, like with John Woolrich's oboe concerto, which he wrote a massive orchestration for. He doesn't use it against me, but the piece, I mean, that's an amazing piece, but so it is possible with resonance to actually fill the Albert Hall with sound without any amplification.
I mean, when we performed Thea Musgrave's Two's Company, for oboe and percussion, and I had quite a large percussion setup, and you're always concerned about balance and things like that, but that was really the first time that we had worked together in a solo capacity, and I could not believe the expanse of sound and the physicality of your playing.
Do you remember our first rehearsal?
I do remember.
Because it was... Because, I mean, you'd never played with an oboe like that before.
Well, once you remember to bring it along, yes.
Oh, did I forget it?
Yes.
I had to go back. Oh, did I? Oh, please, you're
I
kidding
spent
me.
hours setting up my instruments, and
Did
you
I?
came along with
Without
an
my
empty
oboe?
case.
No.
Yes.
Do you know, for some reason I've completely blanked that from my
Oh,
memory.
well, there
That's
we
not going in the
go.
memoirs, shall I just say that? Oh dear. Well, luckily I lived close. I think probably I've been up with one of the children sick all night. The dog had done a doodah in the kitchen. Those were the straight days.
Yeah, but no.
Now it's, what's going on. Well, anyway. But the thing is, it was fascinating, the rehearsal, because it took a certain change. It took time for you to sort of read the sound, and we were working on it, and it was going fine. And I said, well, I'll come back tomorrow and we'll do some more. The next day, you didn't even look at me. You played absolutely everything exactly with me, and it was almost as though you'd learned that overnight in your sleep you'd learned the sound. I've told a lot of people that story because it was. I mean, before you were watching for visual cues. The day one, day two, you didn't even look at me. I mean, it wasn't defensive. It's never.
I always want to look at you.
No, but it was amazing, and I thought, gosh, that's about reading, isn't it? That's how you read it. That's how you. And also the oboe is incredibly. If you look at it on an oscilloscope, which shows you the picture of the sound, it's an incredibly full series of vibrations. So you get lots of vibrations from the top and the bottom, and so the closest thing to it is actually a soprano saxophone, which is slightly similar, but it has a few of the vibrations, the areas, the hertz missing. But the oboe is very full sound, which is why it's used to tune the orchestra. The tuning note for the orchestra is given from the oboe, because it kind of cuts through like a hot knife through butter.
I know. Well, I mean, I remember also playing Veni Veni Emmanuel by James Macmillan with the Britten Symphonia.
Yeah.
And you were playing the oboe.
Yes.
In the women's section.
You loved it.
And I can't tell you again the difference, the presence.
Really?
You always
Amazing.
think the double bass is the mother of all instruments, and it really, or the tuba or something, and it just
grounding,
lifts everything. And I really found that you instantly knew you were in the orchestra.
Really? How extraordinary!
Definitely.
Well, thank you. That's a huge thing.
Yeah.
But I remember talking about the double bass.
Ooh.
I remember you doing your grade 1 double
Oh
bass.
my heavens!
The air was blue.
The
air was blue.
It was white outside because it was snowing.
It
Remember?
was snowing. We did it at my children's piano teacher's house near Cambridge, and when you came out, she said, "Oh dear, I may have sworn a wee bit."
Oh my! Well, it was for grade 1-a-thon.
It was for grade 1-a-thon.
Which
They
was
raised
raising
the
money for
most
each.
enormous amount of money each East Anglian children's hospices.
Absolutely, and you did the guitar, grade 1 guitar.
I did. It's so funny because I've never practiced anything so much in my whole life.
It's so true, but it's funny the emotions of really wanting to do well and caring about a situation.
Oh, yeah.
It's quite
And
stressful.
terrible pride.
Yeah.
And imposter syndrome.
Oh dear.
But that was great though. But I mean, you said how much you loved playing the double bass because it was right close to your body in that way, on your body really.
Well, you're I mean, all elements of it is. I mean, you're practically knocked over by it.
And I remember saying, "But how have you been practicing? Because you've been on tour." And I said, "Did you put one in the van?" He said, "No, I couldn't do it. I just used to go to orchestras and steal their double bass and practice on it."
I know. I mean, I remember being with the Strasbourg Phil, and I went to the bass section. I said, "Oh, please, could one of you maybe just give me a 5-minute lesson?"
That's
and,
cheeky cheating. That is.
Well, we had to find our own lessons.
That's true.
Remember, we got one.
We did, and
lesson.
I wasn't free for the lesson either.
And then, yes, we had to find our own way. And this very kind gentleman, he said, of course, I'll help. And he gave me about half an hour of his time. And that was when he said, the double bass is the mother of all instruments.
Yes.
Which is interesting.
It's a gorgeous instrument. And when I'm conducting, I have to say, I find that there's a crucial balance between double basses and cellos. I mean, if the cellos and double basses are in octaves, if they're playing the same music but on 8 notes apart, then I love to have a tiny bit more double bass than cello. Obviously, if the cello's got the melody, double basses are supporting, you've got to let the melody through. But I find there's actually, I'm sure I don't know the mathematical percentage, but I have a sort of feeling in my body when it's right. But some conductors are like, double basses, just always too loud. Shut up, double basses. Others are particularly older conductors who lose their hearing a bit as they get older. They can't hear the double basses enough, so the double basses are sweating away trying to make enough sound. So very often you'll see, if it's an older conductor with slight hearing loss, you'll see the double basses looking as though they're working very hard, and then he goes, yes, that's great, but actually they're not making so much noise, they're just acting it a bit. But it's funny, isn't it?